Fooled you. Did you tell that to anyone today? Or did anyone tell that to you today? Yes, today, April 1st, Fool's Day. Why do people celebrate the Fool's Day? I was curious about it and I did some research on the same. And one of the reasons for that was, it seems in France during the year 1582, till then they used to follow this Julian calendar, which was similar to the Hindu calendar, and their new year started on April 1st. But after that, they started following the Gregorian calendar, for which the new year started on January 1st. Now, these people in France who didn't know that the new year has been preponed to January 1st and April 1st was no longer the new year, when they celebrated it, the others who knew it earlier, they started making fun of these people, calling them something called as Poisson d'Oriel, which means April fish. Now, what is the specialty of this fish? It seems this fish was a young fish which was gullible. It can be easily caught. So these people who can be easily fooled were called as April fish. Not just that, there was another story. That was in ancient Rome, there was a festival called as Hilaria. Now for Hilaria, what people did was they disguised themselves looking like some other citizens and made fun of them. And yeah, one more story in relation to that. That was the vernal equinox, which means the time where the first day of spring. That is the time when the Mother Nature kept changing. So it was so unpredictable what the weather will be on that day. So they said Mother Nature was fooling them. Many stories making things more serious or more of importance by many people was in the year 1957 when BBC had a documentary based on the same, where they put pictures of farmers growing spaghetti from trees, and many people believed it. So that's a story, long story, and much more about April Fool's Day. Now, why am I giving you all this information about Fool's Day? Yes, being a fool and being wise is something which is very important in the world we live. If that is so important, who does Bible think is a wise person and who does Bible think is a foolish person? There are many examples from Bible for that. But one text which I have chosen to explain the same for today is from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 7, verses 24 to 27. What do you see here? Here you see, let me read it for you. Everyone then who hears these words of mine, does them, will be like a wise man who built his house on the rock. And the rain fell and the floods came and the winds blew and beat on that house, but it did not fall because it had been founded on the rock. And everyone who hears these words of mine and does not do them will be like a foolish man who built his house on the sand. And the rain fell and the floods came and the winds blew and beat against that house and it fell, and the great was the fall of it. Now, when you hear this, I read it very fast, but I know all of you know this particular passage. And the moment if I ask you, what makes these two people different? Why is a person wise and the other is foolish? One of the answers that you are thinking right now will be because the one who built on the rock is a smart person and the one who built on the sand is a stupid person, is foolish. But when you read the text, it is actually deeper than that. It's not about the rock or the sand, but it clearly tells about the person who hears and do it, who hears and does not do it. The difference is coming with that word, hearing and doing, hearing and not doing. When you look into the Old Testament, you see the word Shema, which means listen, pay attention, respond. That means listen and obey. That's exactly what Jesus is telling. It's not just about listening, but it's about paying attention and responding. That is obeying. What makes you a foolish person or a wise person is not just about listening the word of God. It's not just about reading the word of God. It's not just about studying the word of God. It's not just about memorizing the word of God. It's not just about having it on your car. It's not just about having it on your mobile, but it is about doing it. Not just listening, but doing it, Shema. Once I've heard this story. It seems once a missionary went to a place. Of course, missionaries go to different places, and this place didn't have their own Bible. So normally the first thing they will do is to translate a New Testament into their language. And as he had to translate New Testament, he found difficulty in translating the word obedience because he didn't find this obedience factor followed in that community. And he was struggling to pass his message of obedience to them. And that is when once he was coming back from his translation place to the place where he lived. On the way, his dog was coming, and suddenly the dog ran away a little bit far. And he whistled his dog, and the dog, the moment he heard the voice, he came back running to him. And as the dog came running, there was this old man who was watching him from far and told him like this, "Oh, your dog is all ears." And the man understood, oh, this is exactly the word which I've been looking for all years. Obedience. Yes, my dears, obedience is not just about listening, but it is about doing what you listen. When you look into James tell it much more beautifully. In James chapter 1, verses 22 to 25, it goes like this, "But be doers of the word and not hearers only, deceiving yourselves. For if anyone is a hearer of the word and not a doer, he is like a man who looks intently at his natural face in a mirror. For he looks at himself and goes away at once, forget what he was like. But the one who looks into the perfect law, the law of liberty, and perseveres, being no hearer who forgets, but a doer who acts, he will be blessed in his doing." When you come back to Matthew chapter 7, we can see here that even though this wise man is obeying, that does not exempt him from the storms, from the rain, from the flood. But one thing we see, he is not perished. Listening, which is listening with obedience, will not save you from facing problems, but will always make sure that you won't fall. You will come out of it strongly. Let me end this by quoting the words of Oswald Chambers. "One step in obedience is worth years study about it." You can take all your time studying the Word of God, but when you take one step of obedience, it's much more than that. God bless you.